Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed TO, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 16. Alright, before I go into changes, just know that I went on quite the losing streak here. I did this on Sunday, and the earliest time, well, not the earliest time slot, a more normal time slot. And I was actually a bit exhausted, partially because of work and running a tabletop RPG the previous day. And just to summarize majority of the matches, the first one I had the insulting goal to let my opponent have Andriel. Don't let them have Andriel. Just don't. Just do not allow it to happen. If you allow it to happen, you will die. Unless you have your own Andriel, in which case you're just playing to the meta. Alright. The other ones were kind of just... I just kind of got overran in most of the situations. I couldn't keep up with the damage that was coming my way. And yeah, I pretty much lost a lot of them just in the band pick, because I just wasn't picking things in the right order. As for the rest of this, the update is I went ahead and replaced Sissy White with SP Almeda. I don't have a full feel on how good she is yet. I am going with like a steel enchant, which is definitely different from what most people go with, so her healing isn't particularly the best. But she does provide an option as far as counteracting things like the Awakened one's spellbounds and things like that. In fact, you could actually reflect it back on her if she happens to not be immune. And the global debuffs are actually kind of interesting. I mean, it's said that Almeda doesn't actually have the best debuff pool when it comes to her talent passive, but it does include defense down and it does include take damage up. So it's actually not that bad. And also, it just kind of even against like a Rosen Seal, a combination of that and like Roast, you can melt the crystal barriers relatively quickly. It's rather interesting. But I'm still kind of getting a feel of how to use her properly. All right. Other than that, I don't think there's really much else to talk about. I've been upping her enhancements or her what are they called, inscriptions, as best as possible. I've also been upgrading Pierotess's inscriptions to kind of make her a little bit better. Beyond that, though, I don't think there's really much else to talk about. Alright, so for this box, I went ahead and banned Grinshield. I was actually running into a lot of Grinshields on my previous matches as well, and she's kind of a pain to deal with, because she's just, throwing that shield out, all over the place, and just, making everything unnecessarily difficult. In any case, I get rid of her. Thankfully, this box here doesn't have Andriel, or it doesn't have what's his name, the one that turns into a dragon. That guy doesn't have him either. So honestly, it's a lot of faces I don't see too often. I don't see Rodham that often. I rarely see Epsilon. The rest of this is pretty standard kit. I actually see Auden Kelma pretty often. I also don't usually see Emperor. What's his name? I don't remember his name. Older Ares. And then Sagani. This is actually the first match where I've actually gone up against the Sagani. So that is a mistake. Oh, a mistake I'll be making in a second. All right. So yeah, I go ahead and ban Grinshield. My opponent bans the Awakened one. Not surprised. Grabs their Awakened one. At this point, I go ahead and get rid of their assassins. Just get rid of them. Go ahead and grab my Christian. Gets rid of my Grinshield, gets rid of my Rosen Seal. And they go ahead and grab oh my god, Jintoki. I was about to forget his name. The Lesser Andriel. That's what he is now. So yeah, I'm not too surprised that he was grabbed second, especially with the time faction buff. He can definitely shred my Christian pretty well. There's not too much I can do about it, unfortunately. Alright, go ahead and get rid of Sword and Light and Shadow, get rid of SP Bernhardt. I go ahead and grab Almeda. Oh yeah, or not Almeda, Liana. So something I've been kind of going back and forth on is like second pick an Eshian, which definitely has potential. It's just I don't really have a good measure of how strong she is yet. She can definitely help out with her improved buffing and the ability to act again. But with Liana, I can kind of ensure that I can at least get immunities up and get status effects up a little bit easier. I go ahead and lose access to Silvaria, lose access to Connie there. They grab their Liana. I didn't. One thing to note about this box is it's 2 healer, 2 tank, so you can potentially just wipe out healers or tanks if you want to. I'm completely fine with them having them. The only tank I don't want them to have is Hilda. And I know it looks like my opponent was trying to focus grabbing, DPS as quickly as possible. So I was like, all right, I'll just get rid of your DPS until I feel like you're about to pick a tank or something. All right, go ahead and grab Talia. I lose Eshian, lose Kagura, and then here's Sagani. So one thing I made a mistake on as far as setup is concerned is I thought Sagani was physical. I thought he was, because he looked like some sort of weird archer guy that has that stupid owl, but he's actually magic. So that was one thing I didn't really take into account. Not a huge deal, but something I didn't really think of. At this point, I go ahead and get rid of Rose and Seal, get rid of Hilda. I'm completely fine with them having a tank, and if they take Emperor Lozev or whatever his name is, more power to them. I mean, it does give them teleport mobility, but I don't really care too much. I was actually maybe a little concerned because he does have a self-res himself, and he can be he is a bit more offense-oriented, but and he's cavalry against my infantry, but that's fine. Also, I'm grabbing Nemia, which is this. She is still only 5 stars, unfortunately. I'm looking at another 15 days before she gets 6 stars. But I quickly learned. Oh, my opponent did run out of time. That's why nothing got banned here. So that's why it's just straight to this. I did go up against an opponent that had a 5-star Nemia, and it shredded me very thoroughly. So Nemia is still very dangerous, especially against things like Dren Shield, because she's an archer. So they grab Lightbringer, which I'm completely fine with. And at this point, I was like, alright, I'll grab SP Almeda. Alright, so I'm going to make some incredible mistakes in this match. I'll blame it on fatigue and stress. But in any case, Jintoki's pretty standard kit. 3C, Sugar Intake, and Scooter Dash AoE, line AoE. Has Sand Seed Mercenaries, so all infantry. We got the Awakened one that actually went single target, brought Doom Oracle, and then of course her 3C and her swap, and has Poison Bat Mages, which can do additional status effects when you initiate combat. In fact, it does. Poison Bat Mages are actually pretty good if you can get access to them. They're a lot better. I feel like they're better than Sorceresses. Liana here did bring Summon Sky Archer. I was tempted to ban healers just to prevent the potential of my opponent using Summon Sky Archers to, instantly trigger Jintoki. But to be honest, I'm going to end up triggering Jintoki one way or the other. Sagani here. So yeah, he's actually intelligence. I didn't really know that when I was, looking at looking at the box. If there's another ally within 3 blocks, his damage is increased. After dealing damage to an enemy, reduce their mobility and render them unable to guard for turns. So he's actually pretty dangerous. Thankfully, I have multiple ways to prevent that from happening or removing it if it does get applied. So that's not the end of the world. Keen of Eyes of Winter, this gets him his stupid owl that comes out. After he uses it, he can move 2 blocks and attack again. And after he uses it, it gets replaced with something else, but I have no idea what it is. He's got Icy Grip, which looks to be a single target, does additional damage to Lancers, which unfortunately I do have Lancer troops. It applies mobility -2 for 2 turns, and if they already have a mobility reduction effect, the damage is increased. And then Frigid Slash, when fighting an enemy within 3 blocks of the caster and within 2 blocks of the Snow Owl, get increased intelligence. So I believe this is his 3C. AoE does active skill silence and unable to act again. And then the caster gains Winter Blockade. After enemy takes action within 2 blocks of Snow Owl, they take fixed damage. Okay, so that's kind of the gist of it. Has Fairy Spirit Prophets as the troop choice. Nothing to say about Lightbringer. Standard kit with Light Flow, Discipline, and 3C. Has Phalanx troops with the fancy bear skin. That was Liana. Oh, that's everybody. Alright, so we got Nemia here. Like I said, is 5 stars, so her little summoning water thing is in a square shape, 3x3. Not a fat cross, unfortunately. Her gimmick is she does have increased attack, and after her turn, she can put out that water stuff. That water stuff will anyone that stops on it will either get a positive effect if they're an ally, in which case they get healed and a random buff, or they take fixed damage and they gain the regard the current terrain as water for 1 turn. This effect can only trigger. Yeah, the effect applying this can only trigger after 1 turn. When moving through allied mysterious ocean currents, you gain 2 blocks of mobility reduction mitigation. So she moves faster through her own terrain. She has aim, which gives her extra move and attack, or act again essentially. She's got her coral volley, which is essentially a 1.5 damage that does increased damage against aquatics. If the enemy happens to be in water or thinks they're in water, it will ignore guard. And it also makes it so they are stunned as well, and the stun can't be dispelled. And if the caster, Nemea, is in her own special terrain, she does increase damage. So really powerful. Has 2 range, but she does get increased range whenever she's in her own terrain, which is thanks to this 3C. 3C increases unit range by 2 and can move 2 additional blocks after attacking. I was wondering where she was getting her move again. I was looking for that while I was planning during this match. Anyway, her activation is a 1-line AoE that does 0.4 times damage and applies a debuff that makes them think they're in water, and they all take increased fixed damage, which goes well with her talent stuff. If she happens to be in her own terrain when she activates this, it becomes a 3-line AoE. Also, everything that... yeah, and the other thing it does is it also applies that terrain in the AoE range. Alright, I did go with Fairy Spirit Prophets. Nothing too special there. Anyway, Christian standard kit went Phalanxes, which honestly was not the best choice. But honestly, I couldn't think of really any other options to go with. For Liana, I brought her Windbloom Chanters this time, which I talked about last week, where I forgot to switch them in for syncing. But increases healing effect, and anytime I heal anyone, they'll get a 100% chance to reduce one of their damage to skill cooldowns by 1. This does work on AoEs, by the way. I did confirm that. Anyway, act again, heal in 3C. Tatalia here, standard kit, all of her exclusive essentially, and then she has Faceless. And then Almeda here, she's an SP form, which makes her a mage. She has Windbloom Chanter, she's going Roast. Almeda Never Bows, which is her new SP skill, does an AoE heal, and puts 2 stacks of Strong Heart, which makes it so status effects will get immune and reflected back. So it's like a crystal barrier, but it reflects, and it only stacks up to 3 times instead of 2. And it does a decent heal on top of that. And then she has Act as I See Fit, which could do 1 of 3 effects. One of it gives her an extra activation of her talent and increase her healing for that round. Another one allows her to apply... she can apply to an ally, and when they attack before combat starts, they'll apply 2 random debuffs. And then Bozel does a kind of a weak AoE, a single target AoE damage that does a strong debuff and has a 3-turn cooldown, I believe. Also, every time she uses this ability, she reduces her other cooldowns by 1. She does have her exclusive equipped, which allows her to do terrain stuff, or not terrain stuff, but mobility down and guard removal, but it'll require her to attack. She does also, of course, have her Inscription talent as well, which makes it so anytime she uses Roast or her other exclusive AoE, which I don't have equipped right now, it'll reduce the cooldown by like 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 randomly. Alright, let's do this. So for this, I was definitely doing a lot of counting of tiles. And right off the bat, since my opponent was kind enough not to open with Spellbound, I went ahead and applied the reflection barriers up. So now I don't have to worry about that from the Awaken one. So with Tatalia, I can move her to here. I can then act again her, and then she can... Yep. So when she finishes her turn, she'll be able to also apply her talent thing. Get act again, she can go to here, and then she can go all the way to here. Now the mistake I made, and you'll see it in a second, is... I don't know if it's been updated or I just misread it all this time, but the range increasing bow, you have to go less than 3 steps now. I'm pretty sure there was a point where I could move 3 steps with it and still use it, but now it doesn't do that. which makes it far less useful, unfortunately. There was also something else. What was it? After killing blah blah blah. And for some reason I thought she could move after she got killed, but that's not the case. Anyway. So I'm trying to go after Jintoki before he goes all freaking hulked out on us. And unfortunately that's gonna kind of bite me in the end. So as you can see, she now, the Awakened One now has Spellbound on herself, because it got reflected back at her, which is really helpful. So Connie comes in. Yeah. So Snow Aloe Sense is what he, I believe, yeah, so what this does is it makes it so it moves the Aloe 2 spaces, and then when using skills within range of 2 blocks of the Snow Aloe, it's considered to be within reachable range. After taking action, can choose to move the Aloe up to 2 blocks once. When Snow Aloe Despair, the skill is replaced with Keen Eyes of Winter. So the idea is he can literally just hang out in the back, be near allies to get his talent buff, and then just blast everybody. So I'm like, alright, cool, I'm going to go ahead and do Evil Awareness, put that on him. I'm going to go ahead and act again. This will, of course, apply the exclusive buff on her. Oh yeah, I didn't get the show off, but the 2 debuffs that got on Jintoki, thanks to Almeda, was defense down 20% and 20% increased taking damage. They don't have crystal barriers, and she didn't bring any. She didn't bring Gossable or her 3C. So every turn, Almeda is going to be applying 2 random debuffs to 2 different targets, and the range is infinite. So every time she takes an action, just a bunch of debuffs gets applied. So yeah, I move here, and I'm like, okay, I can move like maybe up here and maybe shoot Jintoki with 4 range, but that's not the case. I actually can't do it. So I was very confused here. I was like, oh, I was hoping to go get a kill on Jintoki and just finish this off, and I'm now in a really bad position because I can't get back into guard range. So instead, I just opt to. It also didn't let me. It didn't even let me do the. Yeah, it actually didn't even let me do the freaking extra range where she was at. Like, for some reason, like, I couldn't do anything. Like, it's when I do Evil Breaking Law, it should make it so I'm moving again. So it treats it as a new action. So that's when it should be measuring the distance again. But for whatever reason, like, even when I was standing just here, I still couldn't make it happen. So I was really confused. I don't know if it may be because of the breeze, maybe? I don't know. But in any case, I killed Sagani. Unfortunately, he did have the reflecting accessory, and it procced. This made it so Tatalia can actually be killed, because otherwise she would actually be stealthed right now. But it didn't trigger because she's no longer at high HP anymore. So yeah, everything kind of went wrong there. Oh, actually, I know what I messed up there. I did Evil Breaking. Oh, I see what I'm an idiot. I know why I couldn't get extra range. I was using Evil Fissure and not Dark Devour. I am so stupid. Okay, so that's why I wasn't getting the extra range. I'm pretty sure if I moved 3, I would still have the extra range there. I don't know, but in any case, Dark Devour. If I had used that instead, it would have. Yeah, I would have after battle healed. Which would have solved all my problems. So yeah, this was just dumb all around. Like, I don't know. It's still possible I may have misread the bow again, but me using Evil Fissure instead of Dark Devour, yeah, my mind was mush by the time I was doing this match. I was on a losing streak and I was exhausted. So yeah, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a trade, but it's not a very favorable trade. And unfortunately, I'm in a pretty bad situation. Nemiya doesn't actually have any buffs yet. She did get a damage dealt buff thanks to Act Again from her aim, and then she got it from her own terrain. So I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna move in, see what I can do. Coral Volley. I am special terrain, and unfortunately came up just short of kill. But I was able to move back and get in guard range, and it did force my opponent to back off for now, and go ahead and waste their sugar intake. But I was like, okay, I'm now in this situation. So I'm like, all right, well, I need to kill Jintoki. If I don't, he's gonna eventually shred my Christiane. Dispel for some extra heal, get Gale, get heal active. So back to full HP. So I go ahead and use this opportunity to go ahead and put out more terrain and do some damage. Again, no fancy buffs here, but it actually did pretty good damage. Yeah, it shredded the mercenaries at the very least. But more importantly is Liana has already acted, and now I have this all terrain is treated as water and fixed damage taken is increased. But more importantly is the fact Jintoki is in water now. And I do have aim active again, so I can easily get Coral Volley active again. And I go ahead and just back away just in case. Go ahead and put 3C on her. So now she actually has an attack buff. Also, this does reduce her cooldowns. And I go ahead and apply this, which allows her to do additional debuffs when she attacks. Alright. So yeah, with that, it reduced all my cooldowns, which is great. And you can see you can get just more and more debuffs here. Reduced damage dealt, reduced damage, increased damage taken. Honestly, they're not bad debuffs. So at this point, I'm like, alright, well, you're within my kill range. Volley, and dead. So one thing I'm checking here. I think I have the range. I may have the range bow on Namiya as well. So that because that was 5 spaces. So yeah, I honestly couldn't remember if I did or not. And I go ahead and throw out more terrain just to kind of keep that up and running. My opponent moves in to go ahead and throw this out. Doesn't really do much damage, and all the majority of the debuffs are just going to fly back at her. And I also had the pedal on Namiya, so it would reduce the AoE damage. And at this point, I just kind of take the middle here. Lightbringer tries to attack. It goes as well as you probably thought it would. I'm better against the magic damage than she is, and she's not as good against physical. So I just move up and kind of get set up here, and then my opponent gives up. So yeah, really messy fight. I definitely made a mistake. I didn't realize I had the evil grasping. I didn't realize I wasn't using the 3C. Like, that was just dumb of me. Needless to say, I did eat up a lot of time in this match because I was just trying to think and my brain wasn't working. But I did at least win, but unfortunately my losing streak pretty much reset my point count. So not going to get very far on that, unfortunately. Also, I really wish there was a sync all on this, so I don't have to constantly check to make sure I have my troops actually carry over to this. But real quick, where's Namiya actually? Okay, Namiya does have a ranged bow. So if moving fewer than 3 blocks, so so yeah, I think I could not have reached Jintoki, unfortunately. I think it was I tried to do it with the 3C, and then I backed away, and decided. And I guess in that I probably tried clicking the other attack button for some reason. Which, honestly, if I had just done 3C on Sagani, I'm pretty sure I would have just healed back to full, and then I would have been just fine. So that just made the fight just unnecessarily more dangerous. But at the same time, I still got to show off Almeda. Yeah, if you let your if they don't take Risen Seal, which if they do, good on them. I mean, that's one less attacker. But you can just constantly put debuffs up on them with Almeda, and it does help. So definitely not too shabby. So yeah, I was using Evil Fissure, and I should have been using Dark Devour here. After initiating battle, cannot be killed by daily attacks. Can trigger once per battle if there's enemy with evil awareness within 3 blocks. Okay, yeah, so unfortunately I didn't do any of that stuff. And then this thing here, when fighting within 3 blocks of evil awareness, when using Dark Devour to kill the enemy after taking action, yeah, that stuff. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that was just my bad. Anyway, I'll go ahead and call it here. I am Vita Prestiro. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season some number 16. I'll see you guys next time.